there just needs to be a point where you tell yourself, like, what do I want? Like, do I have the desire to grow a big fucking business, to make lots of fucking money? And do I really think how I'm currently operating, or that like the goal of doing it in a soft kind of way, is going to get me to where I need to be?
Welcome to Did I Stutter with Jill Perick. And yeah, I probably did because I have a stuttering disability. But I'm also a multiple six-figure business and mindset coach who's here to help you shut down the mindfuckery of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and playing the nice girl in your content so you and your brand can blow the fuck up and so you can stack the motherfucking cash. I'm holding absolutely nothing back. We're talking marketing, messaging, mindset, subconscious healing, nervous system regulation, and how to do it all even with raging anxiety, ADHD, and just being a fucking human. If fuck is one of your favorite words and nothing can get in between you, your iced coffee, or the work that you're here to do, I'm your girl. Let's dive in.
I just got off such a great call with my client inside of the Real Deal Mastermind. Just tell you like the depth of these conversations that we have inside of the container. If you've been like, yeah, like, I don't know if I want to work with Jill in the mastermind or work with her in one-to-one, what's the vibe? Like, we go through so many different things on calls. I fucking love it. Like, one client just pivoted and she had all these like fears and stresses and about content, but she's had so many inquiries. So we were talking about the kind of content she's creating and having fun with her content and like really honing in on her sales now that she has inquiries. I had another client who the whole reason I'm dropping in here today because I want to talk to you about soft girl era versus hard work. So we're going to talk about that. But this client, I dropped a whole audio to her yesterday that was literally like 11 minutes because she was talking about like this feeling she has about being stretched between her physical office that she has for her work and her like online work and just capacity and feeling like, oh, like is it really supposed to be this hard for the online component? And we had a really good in-depth conversation about that. Oh, it's starting to rain a little bit. And she got super excited about the new offer that she's creating. And we talked about that. We talked about logistics. We talked about planning the launch and taking her small offer that she's going to be doing and turning it into something bigger. So we were excited about that. Another client, we were talking about like imposter syndrome that was coming up around her work and feeling like people are just being nice to her when they're complimenting her, which was so interesting. And we also talked about her being not able to brag about herself and how that is a big part about like owning your fucking shit and owning your work and being able to sell it. Like that is a big piece of sales, especially in the online space. Little droplets of rain there. Kind of put my hood up. And my other client we were talking about client boundaries and we were talking about like just her really being able to, separate her coach hat from her business hat and how to establish those boundaries without feeling like a bitch and, just business stuff. So it was so good. It was such a good conversation. And I am just so excited to be in that room with them every single week. We have weekly hot seat coaching calls and I'm always so fucking jazzed to get on the call and be like, what are we going to talk about today? And as you can see, we like go between strategy and the mindset and identity and leadership and business boundaries and just so many different topics that help you grow into the version of you that has those 20K cash runs that can sustain them, that can hold them, that can grow them to even more. And that is the goal and the focus of the Real Deal Mastermind, because you are the real fucking deal and you have work that needs to be in the world. And there's always the mindset shit that's in the way of making more sales and signing more clients. And you need to be in a space that can not only support the strategic side of things, so with the selling, with the launching, with the launch plans, with the offers, like even the client who I was talking to about like pivoting and she's getting all these inquiries and now it's like, okay, how do we turn those inquiries into actual sales? How do we structure this? So of course, like all of that is so important. But if you're also not growing into the person who can hold and sustain it, you're going to sabotage it. You're going to send it. You're going to do everything you can to detract that identity of the version of you that has 20K cash months, because who you are at a 5K cash month doesn't change externally, but internally you are a completely different person at 20K cash. And if that scares you, good. It should scare you a little bit, because your life will change and the way that you see yourself will change as well. And it's just the name of the game, baby. So anyways, if you are interested in working with me and you're thinking, is the mastermind a good fit? Send me a DM at Your Coach Jill. We can talk about the mastermind, or we can talk about my 30-day intensive, or we can talk about one-to-one, and let's have a chat. Let's talk over and stuff. Okay. Now, of course, it's fucking windy. But I wanted to talk to you about Soft Girl Era, because I was talking to a client, like I said yesterday. I dropped her like a whole fucking audio note on it, and I was like, ooh, this needs to be a topic that I bring to the podcast or to my free channel. And honestly, probably both. But here's the thing. Business is hard. Having an online business is very difficult. And I think the problem is that people go into it and they either don't know or they don't expect it to be difficult. And when you have expectations that things are going to be easier than they actually end up being, it can make everything feel harder, versus when you anticipate that something is probably not going to be enjoyable or easy, like you're almost more equipped for it. And I don't know if you can like think of a situation like a workout, like you're thinking, oh, this workout is going to be really hard. It could be. And you could be like, damn, that was a hard workout. But if you go into it and you're thinking to yourself, like, this is going to be such a hard workout, like 9 times out of 10, you actually feel more equipped for it and you feel like you like expected it. And that's what I think happens sometimes when it comes to online business, where especially with like the digital marketing space, the master resale rights, whatever the fuck that was, that like course resale thing. I don't know what was going on there. But like I personally have always had the knowledge that like growing an online business is going to be difficult, and like being a coach and signing clients, high ticket clients, was not going to be just a cakewalk. I think strategically it is. Like strategically it's very simple, right? But identity wise, mindset wise, belief wise, that shit is hard. And I think that there was a time in the online space where there was a market for people that talked about ease and flow, and it gets to be easy. And if people are teaching you that it's hard, like you're not aligned and you're in the wrong industry, or you're working with the wrong people and blah de blah, because people, and I was one of those people. Even last year, I was working with somebody that kind of peddled this, and then behind the scenes, when people would ask her like, oh, like this is feeling really hard, she's like, it is. And I'm like, okay, but you talk about like scaling the feminine way and like things being easy, but that's not what you actually believe. It was so confusing for me. And even years before that, I had been shown like this gets to be easy and you get to receive and it gets to flow. And I was like, okay, like what am I doing wrong that this feels difficult? And here's the thing, here's what I've realized. First of all, I'm a scrappy bitch, and I always have been, and I have always worked hard. But when you're working hard and telling yourself it's wrong, that can feel not great. When you're telling yourself, oh, it shouldn't be this difficult for me, it shouldn't be this hard, content shouldn't be taking this long, all that fucking should. You shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be feeling that, this should be easy. It's just setting you up for fucking failure, because there are no shoulds in the online space. Everybody has a different fucking business, and also it should be hard. There should be things about this that are hard, but it's not that they're hard physically, it's that they're hard emotionally. This is why people quit. This is why people fall off. This is why people can't stay consistent, because it's hard emotionally. And for a lot of people, this is hard to admit because their ego won't let them. They will say, well, I just don't have the time. No, you do have the time. You are just so in your head overthinking, and you're such a fucking perfectionist that even the time that you do have to create content, you aren't going to do it because you're telling yourself, well, I only have half an hour. I can't write a post or do this in half an hour. Right? Or you think, well, God, it took me so long last week, I'm not going to do it this week because I'm exhausted. You're exhausted mentally. You're exhausted emotionally. You're exhausted from feeling like a failure. You're exhausted from feeling like you're doing something wrong. You're exhausted from holding yourself to a higher standard, and you need a break. That is what the soft girl era doesn't account for and nobody talk about, is the fact that it is not the fact that you are doing things and things are just easy and you're not going through life with any discomfort. Listen, business is very uncomfortable, and if you aren't uncomfortable, you're not doing anything. I'm uncomfortable every single day, especially as someone who has this fucking speech impediment, because there are some days that I get up and I'm like, oh, my speech is really bad today. But I said I would go live, but I have a coaching call, but I have 3 live trainings I have to do this week. And you know, that like I can't, I do know that there's certain times in my cycle where my speech is a bit more fluent than normal, but like I'm not gonna work my entire business around my cycle, because then I would get nothing done. Truly, like if I really only have 2 good weeks out of the month, like where everything is optimal and shit like that, I would get nothing done, right? Like there just needs to be a point where you tell yourself, like, what do I want? Like, do I have the desire to grow a big fucking business, to make lots of fucking money? And do I really think how I'm currently operating, or that like the goal of doing it in a soft kind of way, is going to get me to where I need to be? And this doesn't need to be about proving that you're worthy. This does have to be about the fact that you gotta put in the fucking work. If you want people to pay you thousands of dollars just to fucking sit in your rooms, there has to be some work associated to it. And again, like, do I love all the shit that's like you're being paid to exist? You're being paid to exist because your existence is of value. And I am saying that to every human, like your existence is of value. And if you believed that, like how I teach, the experience I have, the wisdom that I have to share is good enough to be paid for, and I have the things I can teach on and things that they can learn, like that is what it means to be paid to exist, to me anyways. And the soft girl era just doesn't account for the emotions that you are going to feel. But what if everything you felt was okay and you didn't go down a fucking rabbit hole every time you had an emotion when it came to your business, and you just said, oh, I'm feeling rejected, and like that fucking sucks. Like if somebody says no, and you got on a sales call with them and they seem like they were really interested, then they get off and they say no, like that fucking hurts. It hurts. But you have to be able to be like, hey, first of all, I can feel how I feel without making it a problem in the business, because that will derail you every fucking time. If somebody said no to working with me, and then I turned around and I created reactive content, or I tore down the offer that they said no to, or I started spiraling and got in my head, and then my content was all like maybe I didn't show up before the next week, that is what happens when you allow how you feel to derail your action. And that is where people get fucked up, is because they tell themselves, I shouldn't be feeling this way. But what if you were like, I'm allowed to feel everything I can feel, but if I am a legitimate business owner, if I had hundreds of clients, how would I move? And I don't mean like hundreds. If you had like 10 high ticket clients, and you had responsibilities and things to do, right? And this is what I used to tell myself when I was in the beginning and I really didn't have any clients in the beginning, or I had like a couple here or there. I'd be like, wow, I'm feeling really shitty about this. Like I could just avoid doing content for this week. But then I was like, but like, what if I wasn't feeling shitty? And like, what if I did just act as if I had all the clients in the world and everything was fine? And even if this person said no and it hurt my feelings, like, okay, that sucks, but how am I moving anyways? That is really going to change the trajectory of your business. I think that soft girl era, it means that you are actually like living in a way where you do not let how you feel derail your action, and you instead soften into the way that you feel and you're kind to yourself. But don't equate that with working fucking hard. If you came into online business because you are looking to escape your 9-to-5. Oh, I've coached so many fucking clients on this. And some clients have been like, okay, screw you. And they've fallen off. And some people have really taken it to heart. They've been like, yep, you're totally right. When people try to escape their job and use their business as the crutch, it will never fucking work. Instead of being like, I am obsessed with this work as a coach, as a service provider, whatever the fuck I do, and I'm obsessed with this work and I love it. And also I have this job, but this job is helping me do whatever I need to do right now. And there is going to be a day, if I just stay obsessed, if I stay in it, if I don't let how I feel derail anything, I will take this full time one day. And you absolutely will. But you have to be obsessed. You have to love it. And I truthfully, like, if you are trying to come into this space and thinking like, I don't want to work hard, I work harder now. I really do. But I'm so aligned with it. I love it. And that means that even if there are like hard things about growing a business, which there's fucking tons all of the time, I remind myself that, first of all, I chose this life, I chose this business. And second of all, just because it feels hard, it doesn't mean that it is. Like, if we really think about it, me showing up and selling and creating content, like, that shit's not hard. But sometimes I get a little bored because I have ADHD. Like, sometimes there's stuff going on with like a client behind the scenes, or this happens or that happens, or there's something happening in my personal life, and that fucking can really suck too. But the point of, like, I still think I have a soft life, like I do, but I also work so fucking hard. And a piece of that working hard, like, it can feel like hard work to keep my emotions in check and not let it derail where I'm going. And that is why I have coaches, because I have no shame in dropping in and being like, here's the situation, blah, 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 blah. I need support on this, because it just allows me to externalize. And I bring everything. I bring the mindset, I bring the emotional stuff. I don't like pretend to be this hard up person that doesn't feel anything, because I absolutely do. I'm also on fucking Lexapro, so like, do I feel emotions? Maybe. But I've also been doing this for so long that I've just built the emotional resilience to be like, it is okay to have a negative emotion, but it's not going to change my results. It's not going to change the bottom line. I'm still going to take the action. I'm still going to move. I'm going to get support on this, but this doesn't need to derail anything that I'm fucking doing. And the second I started doing that is when I started getting results. The second I started doing everything and not allowing how I felt to change how I reacted to things. And it still slips through the cracks. It happened in October when I had 3 clients who didn't re-sign, and I was like, it's because I didn't have them sign a contract or put down a deposit, because I was just like, oh, like, I'm kind of like avoiding having this conversation with them. Like, it slips through the cracks all the time. You're a fucking human. That's okay. But being able to clock it and be like, ooh, I let my avoidance or how I felt create a ripple effect into the action that I was taking or not taking. That is the thing that you need to clock. And that is the very specific nuance that you will not be able to catch on your own all of the time. This is why it's so important to be supported, because of those small little things that happen that you don't clock, but someone else external to you can, when you have the right support. So don't get me wrong, I am as soft as they fucking come. I can't wait for them to fucking open our pool. I'm gonna be laying by the pool in between my calls, eating sandwiches, chilling. My husband and I are going to Italia at the end of May, and I'm so excited. And it's gonna be 10 days of just like eating and spending time together and roaming around. I'm so pumped for that. But I also work really fucking hard to have a soft life. And that means that hard work means that I am doing the hard work too with how I feel, and not making it be a problem, not telling myself stories of this should feel easier, because who the fuck said that? People that are trying to sell you a soft fucking life while also working so hard behind the scenes.